بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Going back to the tafsir class, we had completed talking about verses number 28 and 29 of chapter 2 Surah Al-Baqarah, in which Allah says بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم. How can you deny God while you were lifeless and He gave you life, then He will cause you to die and again bring you back to life, and then to Him you will all be returned. This is verse number 28. Number 29, هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن سبع سماوات. He is the one who created everything in earth for you, then He turned towards the heaven, forming it into 7 heavens, and He has perfect knowledge of all things. So this verse number 29, Allah gives evidence, like logical evidence for us that He knows everything. Because if He is the one who created everything, it goes without saying that He knows what He created. Allah says in the Quran, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. How can He not know what He created? Whatever you made yourself, you are the one who knows the most. Correct? That is why if somebody wants to use any kind of device that we use nowadays, computer or TV or whatever, who do we go back to? We go back to the manufacturer manual, because that is the one who manufactured this TV or this computer knows the most about the device that I will be using. هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. So He knows whatever is in the heavens and earth because He created everything. In another verse Allah says, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. He created everything and He knows everything. Here Allah says that He created the earth and whatever is in the earth for you, then He turned towards the heaven. Such a verse led some scholars to think that the earth was created first, then the heavens after that. That is what some scholars of tafsir, exegesis, felt from reading such a verse, and also from reading verses such as قل أئنكم لتكفرون بالذي خلق الأرض في يومين وتجعلون له أندادا ذلك رب العالمين وجعل فيها رواسي من فوقها وبارك فيها وقدر فيها أقواتها في 4 أيام سواء للسائلين ثم استوى إلى السماء. In Surah Fussilat, also Allah talks about the creation of the earth. Then He says, then He turned towards the heaven. Same thing, that He did this and this for you on earth, then He turned towards the heaven. Based on these 2 verses, some scholars, many scholars actually, maybe the majority, felt that the earth was created first, then the heaven. But you will find another verse in Surah Al-Nazi'at, for instance, saying, أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا فَسَوَّاهَا وَأَغْطَشَ لَيْلَهَا وَأَخْرَجَ ضُحَاهَا وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا أَخْرَجَ مِنْهَا مَاءَهَا وَمَرْعَاهَا. This verse clearly and explicitly says that Allah created the heavens. أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا. Are you bigger in creation or the heavens? Allah is talking to these poor slaves who deny Allah, that they think that they can deny Allah or defy Allah. He says to them, look at the heaven. Are you stronger or the heaven? Are you bigger or the heaven? Are you more complex or the heaven? لَخَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ خَلْقِ النَّاسِ. أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءِ بَنَاهَا. He built it. رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا فَسَوَّاهَا. He elevated its building and He perfected it. وَأَغْطَشَ لَيْلَهَا وَأَخْرَجَ ضُحَاهَا. And He darkened its night and brought forth its daylight. وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. And after that He دَحَ الْأَرْض. Daha could mean create, but it also has multiple meanings. Daha, to form into a spherical, almost spherical, udhuwa, like al-udhuwa, which is the egg of the ostrich. It's called udhuwa aydan, yes, as well. So Allah says here that He made the earth in the shape of an egg, for instance. Or daha could mean to throw something. That's also called dahi. And when they used to play with rocks, like these circular stones, and throw them to hit, almost like marbles. Have you ever played marbles and throw rocks against to hit the rock? These used to be called madahi, also called madahi. Also, when the water flows and rolls stones as it goes, they say daha sailul hajar. The sail or the water, the flowing water, caused the stones to roll. So Allah is mentioning here that He created the earth and He formed it in a spherical shape. Daha, this word daha means all this. He created it, He made it as a sphere. Not a perfect sphere, because if you look at the ostrich egg, it's not a perfect circle, it's not a perfect sphere. It has some kind of flattening towards one side. Has anybody looked at an ostrich egg before? Have anybody seen one? In Ethiopia, you don't have ostrich? But let's look it up. Can somebody look up the ostrich egg, how it looks like? I read it in the book, but I never saw it. Actually, as a child, I saw one. And they have very thick wall, and some people actually keep this shell. So look up the ostrich egg, please. How it looks like, just on images. And also to throw something like that will cause it to go in an orbit that is semicircular. To throw it like this, like any projectile is thrown. This is also called dahi. What does it look like?
It's like oblong.
Oblong, exactly. Like that. So it has two flattened sides, and it has two a little bit oblong edges like this, and two sides that are a little bit flat. Does anybody know what the earth looks like? The earth is not totally spherical. It has flattening as well. It has flattening from two poles, and it's a little bit bulging from the equator and flattened from the two poles as well. Quite similar to the ostrich egg. So, dahaha, this word describes almost everything about the earth. Describes the shape, describes the orbit of the earth around the sun, because it goes in that kind of projectile orbit. And it as it flies like this, it also rotates, the tadahraj, rotates around its own axis, just like when the river flows and carries the rocks and they start rolling as they go as well. So it describes its motion around itself and around the sun, and the shape as well, and the perfect shape actually. So this verse is more explicit in telling us what was created first. The Surah Nazi'at, because he says ba'da dhalik. He says after doing everything to creating the heaven and perfecting it and making the day and so on, that means the sun was created by that time as well, and the rest of the heavens was dark. After that, Allah created the earth. And does anybody know the Umr al-Kawn, the age of the universe? How old is the universe? Does anybody? I mentioned that here before. How many billion years? Guys in the back, are you guys focusing? How old is the universe? How many billion years old? 14 billion, not million, billion years old. That's the universe.
But how did they arrive? Because some of these figures, sometimes it puzzles me. How did they arrive at that figure?
Oh, they can calculate it. They can calculate it very much, and they can tell you what happened. Actually, you can watch some videos that tell you what happened in the first second of the universe. They can go back because they look at the speed of how the planets are, the universe is expanding, and the planets are all flying away from each other. That speed, and then they look at the position of these things, and then and the size of the universe that they can identify. Based on that speed, they can go back and see, before, let's say, 100 years, this planet was here, before that was here, before that was here, before that was here, and then they can calculate at one point all the planets were together, fused together in one mass. Yes, exactly. They were. It's no longer a theory. This is what everybody agrees about today, that all these planets came from one single mass. They call it singularity. And they say it came from a single mass, but they don't know, but because they cannot imagine that it came from nothing. They say if you go back in time, it got smaller and smaller and smaller, but then they say all this universe with the planets and the galaxies and the stars and the moons and all this came from a singularity that is smaller than the tip of the pin. Who can believe that? Yani, how can you condense all this into something smaller? They just don't want to say it came from nothing, because it's not even imaginable. They want to imagine what is not imaginable, rather than thinking that a creator brought it out from nothing. Because they say, how can this mass come out from nothing? But anyhow, they can determine the point when it all started and the speed. They can tell you it's expanded at this speed, and if the speed of the expansion in the first minute of the universe was slower by a very small, minute amount, then this whole universe would have collapsed again, and you would have not seen this universe come to existence. And if it expanded faster by a small fraction, actually the number, I don't recall the exact number, but they say something, it was this science, Stephen Hawking, I think it was 10 to the power of 80, something like this, if I'm not mistaken. He says if it was shorter by this or faster than this by a very small amount, then everything would have flown apart and this universe would not have formed. What's your question?
مو في آية بتقول وكان عرشه على الماء.
نعم.
العرش كان قبل خلق السماء والأرض.
Good.
ولا هل الماء كان في الأرض؟
Good question. I'll talk about this. But remind me before I finish. So even that is mentioned in the Quran. أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما. He says, do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and earth were all one mass, attached together, رتقا ففتقناهما. الفتق in Arabic means to separate with force, to tear apart. This is the meaning of fatq. Okay, so here this verse is explicit. So how can we understand this one that says that he created the earth ثم استوى إلى السماء ثم, and the other one that says قل إنكم لتكفرون بالذي خلق الأرض في يومين, and then he says ثم استوى إلى السماء وهي دخان. First of all, we say that number one, Allah says then he turned towards the heaven, which means the heaven was already there. He didn't say he created the heaven. ثم استوى إلى السماء. He turned towards the heaven, that he was going to do some more creation to it, and the heaven is still being created up until today. Up until today, there's more creation going on in heaven. There's more dark matter coming from. They don't know where the dark matter comes from. Whenever it expands, whenever the universe expands, it should leave behind a void. Like when you expand something, so the density should lessen, but they don't see it lessening. They don't see that lessening. The density remains the same. So they've concluded that someone, but they don't say someone. they say dark matter is being created and filling these voids as the universe expands. And the speed of expansion of the universe is some unimaginable speed. I don't recall the number, but it's beyond imagination. Do you guys have phones with you? Especially the small kids. They're very fast. Anybody has a phone, please look up the speed by which the universe is expanding. The speed by which the universe is expanding. It's a huge speed. Something, you find something with multiple zeros. But anyhow, so obviously they're admitting that new matter is being created, but they don't know where it's coming from. And what is pushing the universe apart? They don't know what force is doing that either. That's why they call it dark matter and dark energy. That's what they call. So here we can say that Allah said ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن.
7.5 kilometers, which is equivalent to 41.9 miles.
No. This is your car. Please.
That is how fast the universe expands.
شوف لنا حد بتليفون تاني يكون شغال لو سمحت. 41 miles per second, not per hour. Yeah, our cars go by like 41 miles per. So that is 41 miles per second. You know, in a second, that is speed. Yeah, but I think it's even more than that. Can you check? So we say the heavens was here, or was already there. And another point I want to mention before I conclude here is that the word thumma frequently indicates order. That I ate my lunch, then I drank my tea. ثم شربت الشاي. أكلت الطعام ثم شربت الشاي.
That's equivalent to 3.26 million light years. Which one is light years?
Light years.
Yes.
Is the distance that is that light travels in a year, and light travels at a speed of 300,000 kilometers per second. So light years. Please look up the speed of expansion of the universe. It's much faster than this. So, or thumma could also mean something called tartib al-zamani or a tartib al-rutabi. From one thing to something that's even more difficult. So you can say حملت, if you're trying to prove that you're strong, you say حملت 100 كيلوغرام ثم إني حملت 150 كيلوغرام. When I say that ثم, it doesn't necessarily mean that I lifted the 150 after I lifted the 100. I'm just telling you that I did something even more difficult than lifting the 100. You follow? So here, when Allah says that He created the earth, ثم استوى إلى السماء, which means that I created the earth and I created something that's even more complex and bigger and more difficult, you know, than more sophisticated than the earth itself. You follow? So the word ثم could be understood as Allah drawing our attention that the creation of the heavens is even harder task than the creation of the earth. Still, you're still fixed at the same speed? Huh? في speed تانية?
The universe has continued expanding since it was born about 13.8 billion years ago.
Yes.
By analyzing the present rate of cosmic expansion, known as Hubble constants,
Yes.
scientists can estimate the age of the universe.
That's what we spoke about.
Details of its fate.
Okay, but what about the speed? عبد الناصر انت بقالك 5 دقايق بتدور. ها؟ Oh, if you guys don't get it now, I'll get it inshallah for next time.
It come back to 74 kilometers per second mega per sec. It's a languages I've never heard.
Okay, well, we'll have to look it up. Inshallah, look it up. We'll conclude with this question here. Allah says, هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وكان عرشه على الماء ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. This water that Allah says His throne was on the water does not refer to the water on the earth. This is a different water that we have no idea about and we have no information about more than this. That this water is something, an ocean of water above the seventh heaven. And above it is the throne of Allah Azza wa Jal. Above it is the throne. So this is حاجة من عالم الغيب. This water is not the water that's on the earth. Okay? This ayah من سورة هود وكان عرشه على الماء ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن. No. So no. And of course the throne was created before the creation of the heavens and earth. I think there's a hadith أول ما خلق الله القلم. I think the first thing that was created was the qalam, the pen that writes everything, and then number two is the arsh, the throne of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now, stop here.
This is advanced geography. Even when I did geography, I never got to understand.